remembers what has happened in our story? We're almost at the end. What has happened in our story so far? Quite a bit, right? Gia, what are some things that happened in our story?
They got trapped in a dark room and the cat landed them out.
Yeah, so last we left off, they were walking through that really dark fake passage, right? They couldn't figure out how to get out, and they followed the cat out of the fake passage to outside. What else happened? Go ahead, Hunter.
They saw a big sand ship out and they did.
Yeah, so once they got outside, once the cat led them outside, Abdullah, put it away. Once they got let outside and they were back in the treehouse, they saw this big ship that looked like it was floating on the sand like it was in the ocean. And what do we think that ship maybe was? What do we think the ship maybe was? What do you think, Wes?
I think it was actually it had the M on it.
Oh, so maybe that's involved with the M. Well, remember, who were they helping this whole time? Who were they helping in the pyramid? Jake, who were they helping?
The ghost mummy.
Yeah, they were helping the ghost mummy, right? They had to help her find the book. And so they found the book and they gave it to her. And if you remember, I don't know if it said it, but a lot of the times they have to ride a boat to get to their next life. So it could have been that that boat was the queen finally getting to pass on. All right, so last we left, they had read the Pennsylvania book. And what happens when they read the Pennsylvania book? Omari, what happens when they read the Pennsylvania book?
They'll start reading it. I need to my notepad out to sketch the story.
Okay, that's not what we're worried about right now. So, what happens when they read the Pennsylvania book? Hunter, what happens?
And they go back to the house.
Yeah, they go back to their house because they live in Pennsylvania. After I put it away. So now we're on chapter 10, our very last chapter. They are back home. The treehouse took them home. And it's called Another Clue. So the other books we did not read. I couldn't, unfortunately, find the first and second one. But they already have a bookmark and a medallion that have the letter M on it. And they're trying to figure out who owns this treehouse. Because it's not their treehouse. They just found it. So this is called Another Clue.
I think they're going to bring off the story.
We'll have to see. Late morning sunlight shone through the treehouse window. Shadows danced on the walls and ceiling. Jack took a deep breath. He was lying on the floor of the treehouse. I wonder what Mom's making for lunch, said Annie. She was looking out the window. Jack smiled. Lunch, Mom, home. It all sounded so real, so safe and calm. I hope it's peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, he said. He closed his eyes. The wood floor felt cool. Boy, this place is a mess, said Annie. We'd better make it neater in case M comes back. Jack had almost forgotten about M. Would they ever meet the mysterious M? The person who seemed to own all the books in this treehouse? Let's put the Egypt book on the bottom of the pile, said Annie. Good idea, said Jack. He needed a rest before he visited any more ancient tombs. Let's put the dinosaur book on top of the Egypt book, said Annie. Yeah, good, said Jack. And a long rest before he visited another Tyrannosaurus Rex. So that was the book before this one was, I think it's Dawn of the Dinosaurs is what it's called, I think.
I want to look for my dinosaur.
The castle book can go on the very top of the pile, said Annie. Jack nodded and smiled. He liked thinking about the knight on the cover of the castle book. He felt as if the knight were his friend. So the first book was about knights, so they were the castle for the first book. Jack, said Annie, look. Jack opened his eyes. She was pointing at the wooden floor. What is it, he asked. You have to see for yourself. He groaned as he got up. He stood next to Annie and looked at the floor. He didn't see anything. Turn your head a little, said Annie. You have to catch the light just right. What do you think he's going to see?
Emmy.
What do you think? Jake, what do you think?
The ants are going to ask the question.
So maybe they'll see an M on the floor. Let's see.
No, it's not obvious.
Jack tipped his head to one side. Something was shining on the floor.
I said,
we'll talk about it after. He tipped his head a little bit more. A letter came into focus. The letter M. It shimmered in the sunlight. This proved that the treehouse belonged to M. And I'll come around with the picture after, but they have a picture here of them finding the M on the floorboards. I'll come around and show us once we're done with the chapter, okay? Absolutely, for sure. No question, no doubt about it. Jack touched the M with his finger. His skin tingled. Just then, the leaves trembled. The wind picked up. Let's go down now, he said. Jack grabbed his backpack, then he and Amy climbed down the ladder. As they stood on the ground below the treehouse, Jack heard a sound in the bushes. "Who's there?" he called. The woods grew still. "I'm going to bring the medallion back soon," Jack said loudly, "and the bookmark too, both of them tomorrow." So those were the first two things he found. He had taken them inside, so he's going to bring them back. After all, we're not ripping up paper. "Who are you talking to?" asked Danny. "I feel like M is nearby," Jack whispered. Annie's eyes grew wide. "Should we look for him?" But just then, their mother's voice came back from the distance. "Jack, Annie." Jack and Annie looked around the trees. Then they looked at each other. "Tomorrow," they said, and they took off running into the woods. They ran down their street, they ran across their yard, they ran into their house, they ran into their kitchen, they ran right into their mom. She was making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And that's the end of the book. What do you got, Wes?
I have a fourth one.
You have the fourth one? Very cool. Yeah, there's so many of these books.
What's the last?
Hold on, raise your hand, guys. Raise your hand.
I have the fourth one.
Oh, the first one?
And the 10th one, I have the 10th one, and that's when they find it on the 14th.
Oh. Go ahead, Jake.
The ninja one, I think it tells you that, not the end, it tells you like all the endings that they
Yeah, they find a lot.
The bookmark and the other thing. I followed the hard one.
Well, they find an M thing in each one, so they find a new clue each time they read a book. But I think they're at like 100 now for these books. I'm not sure, because she wrote a lot of them. I don't know if it tells us. But they do have a little bit about the author, so the person that wrote these books, her name's Mary Pope Osborne. So it says, Mary Pope Osborne is an experienced time traveler. As a kid, she and her brothers used to pretend the picnic table was a ship that could take them anywhere. Go sit down. Now she writes books that carry her and her readers through time and around the world. I would rather have a magic treehouse, she says, but I can't find one big enough for everyone to take with me. She and her husband Will live in New York City and spend their weekends in Pennsylvania. So she also used to play on a picnic table and pretend it was something similar to the Magic Treehouse. So that's where she got the idea for these books. How cool is that?
Cool.
All right. What did we think of the book? Now that we finished it, what did we think?
It was good.
What do you think? Raise your hand. Tell me what. Raise your hand. Tell me what your favorite part was. Gia, what was your favorite part?
When they found the M on the